Hey everybody, welcome to Garrett's Games of Geekiness. We are a podcast, an audio podcast, but we are also doing videos for a variety of games, starting with the ones that we got from Essen 2024. And this week we have Stevens from Rola and Costa. This is for 1 to 4 players, 30 minutes per player, 14 plus on the box from Pile Up Games. And it is a game about William Stevens, who is an important historical figure in Portugal, because after the rather famous, still talked about, still you can see the evidence of the 1755 earthquake that happened in Lisbon, earthquake and tsunami that happened in Lisbon. That massive destruction led, of course, to a bunch of rebuilding, and William Stevens was one of the people who went to Lisbon, a person from England, who was able to take advantage, but also it was kind of ahead of his time in terms of... Very philanthropic. We talked to Costa about why this was the focus for their design, and so the idea here is he went there because of course glass and products were going to be needed, so the Stevens Glass Works was an important part of the recovery of Lisbon, and so you are going to be working with Stevens to try to hire as many people, to get contracts, to establish workers who are going to then develop your business, and it's also a race in many ways because the French are coming. The encroaching French, Napoleonic France, is coming to invade Portugal, and so that is the trigger for the game. So let's take a look at Stevens here and see how we're going. By the way, how you doing, honey bunch?
Good. How are you, dear?
I'm doing great. Let's see how we got it. Okay, so as we said, in Stevens, you are going to be working in Stevens's Glass Works. That's the middle of the table here. You've got contracts down one side over there that you are going to try to fulfill for the royal family, for the colonies, and for England. You also have investment cards over here on the that you can draft and put as part of your player board, which we'll talk about in a minute. Then up here, this is where, when you do the investments, you then put resources, which are other things that you can make, like utensils or fabric or pottery, that gets placed into these areas and can be drafted as well. You've got this money and so on and so forth. When you do that, when you do your investments, these two tracks, you're going to be taking resources, of course. So when you do investments, you can see that they cost resources when you do them. And you are going to then move down possibly the dunes track because you're taking sand to make glass, or you're going down the forest track because you're taking wood because you're making things like wooden utensils and so on. So that's what you've got there. Now up here, these are the various professions. You start with, everybody drafts a single one, and professions either go with the circle part here toward the side, okay, so these would go on this side, and this one, which also have a red back, by the way, these have the blue back, these go on the other side. So the circle goes toward the various things there.
And also the cards up here are separated by that colors as well. So we have the blue cards on one side, red cards on the other. So these 3 that are available are red, and these are blue. So that'll help you with knowing which side to put them onto.
Everybody has a double layer player board as well, where you've got this big double, which is showing your influence at this time. And you have all of these indented spots, which will represent being able to place out people onto those professions that we just talked about. These over here are related to scoring either during the game or at end game scoring if you remove these pieces. The ones that are along here allow you to move the influence further along. In other words, I can't move past 5 unless I take that circle out. These are all related to various card plays and so on, or drafting of cubes from these upper areas as well, these upper workshops. So that's the way...
There's a lot of variety in terms of which ones you can take, because you can take any ones that you want, except for on this trait you have to start at the bottom.
Exactly.
But otherwise you can take any one, so that'll help you with having a variety of ways of playing and starting the game and figuring out what you want to do.
Definitely. Now, of course, this board wouldn't be here on the middle of the playing board, but on you do have 3 sides here to the player board, because down here along the bottom you can see that looks like the contracts. This is where non-fulfilled contracts are going to go. So you can have 3 that are still open that you haven't fulfilled yet. This is where the different contracts of the types go once you've fulfilled them. So you can see for the Crown, for the colonies, and for England. And then over here is where your investments go, and they are organized, if they have any cubes on them, by either the orange, the pink, or the black cubes that might be on them. Some, of course, of these investments don't even have cubes on them, and those could be placed in any spot. Otherwise, so for like this one, this is pink, so it would go here into this middle slot when you take it. All right, so that is the player board. So how does a turn work? Well, a turn involves drafting a cube from the glassworks, or on later turns from the workshops up here, or taking one of your circles off here to start a profession. By the way, the starter professions are going to start depending upon there. So this would be, for example, how it would go. Maybe I have my starter profession on here, and Shelley, maybe you have this one. That one? Yeah, okay. Sure. You've got that one, okay? So the marks on here have one. So what this tells me is that because I've started with this profession, the -1, all of my investments and contracts are going to cost 1 fewer, though at least 1. And Shelley's going to be able to put professions above into the workshops, because usually the rule is that you have to have more people in the lower workshops before you can put any up above. So right now, I couldn't put anyone here, but Shelley can have it so that it's equal to the value that is underneath. That's a little technicality, but we got it.
Which will help with getting more points later in the game.
Exactly. So when you take off a cube, okay, you are then going to either, with these 2 clear glass cubes, you are going to, you're choosing on this side to take a contract, spending between 1 and 5 in your influence. Remember, you start with 2 influence here, as well.
You're going to get yours for 1 cheaper.
And I'm going to get mine for 1
exactly.
Which
still only costs
still 1. Always costs 1. And over here, it costs in coin. You start with 4 coin, but then you have to pay at least 1, and you get your investments. Okay, so you're taking a cube off, doing the action. Once something is completely cleared for during a round, nobody can do that action until you have a reset. That happens when 2 of the 4 glass furnaces are completely empty of cubes. All right, so you're doing that, or as we did here with our starter profession, you can also then take something off. So maybe I want to take this one off, which will mean that whenever we have that reset phase, I'm going to score a victory point. And I look at,
nice to do that early.
Definitely nice to do that early. Yeah. And maybe I want to reinforce and do better over here, or no, I'm like, okay, I want to get in over here to trigger this. So I'm going to come in over here. I'm going to use an influence to get that, put my guy on here. And now, whenever with any of these top 2, green and blue, and these workshops, whenever there are professions here, whenever you take a cube from there, you also trigger all of the bonuses that anybody might have on their professions. Now, it is possible, say Shelley took this one at some point in the future. Yeah. This one's kind of nice. And she got the -1 going on over here. Okay, now she has that. And so if either of us took a blue cube, then all of these actions are going to be, these bonuses are going to be triggered. Now, the nice thing about here is that I can, instead of choosing a new profession up here, I could instead become an apprentice. If I really liked this action, I could become an apprentice for her, and that would mean that I get to do that action too, but at the end of the game, she is going to get a victory point because she has an apprentice on her thing. I should say, at the end of the game. For every profession that's in the glassworks, it's going to earn 1 victory point. For everyone that's in this first tier of workshops, it's going to earn 3 victory points. And up in the top tier of workshop, it's going to earn 5 victory points. Now, as you're going along, as soon as 2, say this and this, of the glasswork areas are emptied, you trigger that reset phase. Now, the first thing that happens, and you can't see it because it's out of frame, is the French army advances. And there are spots along the score track that have every 5 steps along the score track is where the French army, and it's advancing towards 0 as, of course, you're scoring points here heading up from that.
It advances very quickly.
It does advance quicker than you would think. And so you place that in there, a certain number, in this case with 2 players, it's going to be 2. So 2 glass cubes would come in there, 2 refilled. These would not refill, regardless however many.
They probably would have had less in
Probably
them
have already been depleted, exactly. In subsequent rounds, all of the workshops get emptied. If you've uncovered this one specific spot, I get a point for having my that spot empty. This is whenever a reset happens, I get a victory point. And then if you have these things built in, say I had these 2, okay, along the side of my board over here, right? So I'd have the pink one here. I'd say, oh, this doesn't have any cubes on it. I'm going to put this one in here, okay? So I could trigger that. In order to do that, say it's alongside my board, I would go down 1, 2 in dunes because I'm using resources here, and it tells me I'm going to have to lose that. But then I'm going to get 3 victory points, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to get 2 pink cubes, which I'm then going to be putting out into the workshops, which can benefit me. Now, pink only,
have to do that.
And you have to do that, exactly. You have to send resources out. So for example, here with pink only, I could get 2 coin per pink cube that I'm going to put over here, and those resources are now then going to be available for subsequent rounds. If
so
I
could draft those in the future.
Well, either of us could draft them, right?
Exactly.
And
if there were cards here, those we'd activated.
Profession cards, those could be activated. And you can see the little instant activation symbol in all of these corresponds down here that any professions that are built out here get activated. Their bonuses happen when somebody takes cubes from that particular area.
Now, you don't have to activate them. Maybe you wouldn't be able to afford to do it.
That's true.
Or you might choose not to if you're trying to do something else, but you have that option.
Right. You can also see that combinations of those cubes that I've been collecting might get me these other resources like a wine bottle or sand mixer, clay maybe, or this I believe is like a chandelier made with glass. And those are things that you can use and can be used to fulfill contracts over there. You can also use it to put out more professions kind of out of the turn sequence, or get contracts or investments out of turn sequence if you have one of each of the 3 colors.
Because as you're noticing, when these clear out, oftentimes these are the ones that are going to clear out. You're only adding 2 to the ones that clear out. In a 2-player game, you're only adding 1, 2, and then only 1 as the game progresses. So it's going to go very quickly, and you're going to be having these resets happen very quick.
Right, and so the resets keep happening as soon as the French meet or pass somebody's score token. That is going to trigger the end of the game. You do the reset again. You make sure that everyone has, we finish out the round. So for example, if I had started the game and I triggered that reset and crossed there, Shelley would get another turn, and then we'd each get 1 more turn, and that would be the end of the game.
We should also say that these cards and the resources that you would get from the collection of these are always spent up here. But to get these done, you don't use the ones that
come from your investments. You have to have obtained them. You have to pull them off.
These parts of the board.
That's true. That's true.
So that's complicated sometimes to do because you have to work it. You have to figure out how to get the color cubes you want and need, and drafting the right ones from here and on both sides.
That's true.
And being able to afford to pay for them with money and with influence.
That's true. Okay, so after that roundup, what did you think of it?
I think it's an amazing game. It is really tough and hard. I cannot win at all. But I've come one game within 8 points of you.
Yes.
And many games with a bigger spread than that. It is fantastic.
It really is great.
I mean, it is such a big think in a fast game.
Yeah.
Because you don't usually have that in race games. It's
definitely
a big think like this.
One of the things that we I should say, and Costa and Rola are good friends, and we were speaking to Costa about this, and when he says, people think this is an engine builder, and there is some engine building going on, of course, but people forget that it's also a race game because the French are coming. And there's no preventing that from happening. And what was really interesting is with each subsequent play, the first game, we're kind of exploring what's going on and so on. And it took a little bit longer. By our third game, we were in definitely 2 players in under an hour for sure. I think it was like 45 minutes.
That one was atypically fast.
It might have been, but it was pretty amazing how it's like, oh my gosh, we're not going to have much of a chance to do all the things that we want. So we got to make sure that we maximize what we've got as we go forward. I really like this game.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah.
It is really straightforward. The one thing, the score track goes to 55. Should have gone to 50, and there should have been an extra step there. I'm just saying, that would be the only thing that I would change about the game.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
But otherwise, that is a great game. I love the interplay of the mechanisms here and the choices you can make, because we've had different games depending upon what cards come out and depending upon how the investments flow and stuff like that.
Right.
So maybe we're going heavily into getting a lot of workers, and that was one game where we were building up our workers and making sure that we were getting up into these upper levels where each worker is worth 5 points, right?
Yeah.
Whereas another game, it was like, oh gosh, we've got investments and we can do a lot of investments, and we were able to get a lot of investments going. And then we were able to get the cubes into here and so on. And then maybe it was contracts. And so, I mean, there's this balancing that goes on of the different things you've got. And I just really love the straightforwardness of the choices. You have numerous choices, fewer at the beginning because you only have 4 cubes to draw from, and then the possibility of 4 sections, 4 different spots of where cubes are to draw from, because you're drawing a single cube, or you're taking one of your circles off and putting it out to have a profession going on. That's it.
But what's interesting is the way that these the contracts work. When you're doing the scoring, it's based on the column. So you're going to be building out for each of the areas in your, so are you putting it in Britain? Are you putting it in Portugal? The colonies, I guess, would be the middle one.
Your colonies are the middle one, yeah, exactly.
So if you're activating a column, you can build a bunch out.
Yeah, so for example, if Shelley had collected 1, 2, 3, and then this here, you're looking at the column, one of each type, and you look at how many cubes it took. So in this case, there's 1, 1, and 3. So 5 times 3. So this would be worth 15 points. And then this one out here all by itself just has 1 cube on it, so it would be worth 1 point. However,
if card
exactly.
Number of cards times the number of cubes on the cards.
Exactly.
In the column. So, and the other thing is the way that it's the same thing on the other side based on the columns too.
Yes, you can activate the columns. So, for example, we had these 2 out here, and if this pink was out here as well, the pinks are going to be next to each other, and you activate. It's orange, pink, black. So you'd activate this column. Now, this is a free activation because there's nothing that there's costs,
no cost
right? So that would be an easy one to activate. But for example, maybe foolishly, I had done this.
Right.
Gonna do this, and this. I had these, I forgot that I could have put this blank one up here in orange.
But you don't know necessarily what's coming out.
You've got this coming out, and in order to activate these 2 rows, I would have to spend 2 from the dunes and then 1 from the forest, and then I would get the cubes and the victory points. If I activated both columns, I would get 6 victory points. If I activated one or the other, it's 3 victory points and a cube, or
And you
3
might
victory
choose
points and
not
2
to
cubes.
do that because maybe you're trying to keep these tracks higher, because if you keep them higher, you can get 15, 7, or 0 points if you go all the way down.
Exactly.
And so you might choose to activate one column or another column.
That's the forest and the dune, which you can't see. We're just pointing at here.
The forest and the dunes are the ones that are on some of these cards, and some are free actions, but some are not. So the ones that usually give you cubes or more victory points, usually you have to pay for those.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So as you can see, we really like this game. It's involving, it's quick. Once you know this, it plays really quickly and is very fun. So again, that is Stevens from Rola and Costa from Pile Up Games, 1 to 4 players, about 30 minutes per player, but as you know it, as we say, it will be even shorter, and plays 14 plus. So some good thinking this one. That'll do it for this week. Remember, you can sponsor the podcast by going to patreon.com/GarrettsGames. You can go over to garrettsgames.com to check out the audio that we have, or over into the guild or the blog that we have on BGG. You can even go down to the show notes and check out our link that it takes you to a list of games that we have for sale that are no longer ones that fit on our shelves but belong on your table. Anyways, you can support us with that. You can support us with a thumbs up and a subscribe, and we look forward to talking to you on these videos much more often. Have a great week. We'll talk to you later. Bye.